Again, good evening. Thank you for everyone for showing up tonight. So tonight we have some fantastic speakers. Lady Diane Lewis. Everybody knows Diane. Attorney Alex Tabas. Everybody knows too. Senator Gary Win- and our next governor of Connecticut, Josh Elliott. I want people to have their own mind about who they should support. I'm not here saying, I know Josh and he's done all these great things for me, and so I want you to support him, because you know what? It's not about me. This is about all of us. So I want to know, what is Josh going to do for all of us? So we will talk with him later. But right now I want to talk about a couple of other things that are on my mind. And I have some information on the table over there. But one of the things that still bothers me that we need to work on a lot in Connecticut is how we treat young people. Our young people are being harmed so badly, and they're not getting the attention that they need. We have child state advocates who have come in here several times and have informed us of what's happening to our kids. And they're doing the best that they can. They put out wonderful reports on what's been going on with our kids. What I'd like to see is something or someone who's going to move those reports into action. Because reports are great, but if you ain't changing nothing, what's the purpose? So we need our people to be more invested in what's happening to our young kids. Because the harm that's being done to them, they may not recover from. So that's why that's very, very important to me. The other issue I want to talk about is deaths in custody. A few years ago, I asked some Yale students to do some research on who's dying in our prisons. And what I found, that hundreds are dying every year, but nobody's paying attention to it. They barely mention their name, and if they mention their name, they're more invested in saying what their crime was than why they died. And so that became another thing that I said I have to get on top of. So I handed out the list to my speakers so they know how that list is climbing. I have the report from 2025, and I have the report of 2026 so far as of May. I think it was 13 or 14 people who have died already. And it's only May. The former Inspector General used to give me information, but it wasn't enough. He would just tell me like who died and who committed suicide, who drug overdoses, didn't get names, ages, ethnicity, none of that. But the new one that we have, I asked him from the start if he could give us more information so we can do more analyzing of who's dying and why. Especially when we leave it all up to the medical examiner to tell us why someone died. And one of those cases that piqued my interest was the death of J. Allen Jones, a 31-year-old African-American male in Garner Facility, which is where we house the most seriously mentally ill, which is sad to admit anyway, that we have hundreds of people, not just mentally ill, but seriously mentally ill, who may never recover. And we have that right here in our state. And they're not getting much attention either. But at least now we're getting an idea of who's dying and why. And then the third thing I want to talk about is we tried to get past this session, SB 503. It was a bill that looked at kids who committed or up to the age of 25. And we did that because brain science tells us that young people are not really thinking like adults until they're at least 25, because their brain is not developed enough to understand the consequences of what they're doing. Their brains are not developed enough to control their impulses. They're likely to hang with peers, the peer pressure has a lot to do. So they're not adults. I don't care what the crime is. But we can recognize them as adults, as children, unless they commit a crime. And all of a sudden, they're not children anymore. And so we think it's okay to treat them like they're adults. And we give them sentences, we sentence them to decades behind bars. Now, that was a bill Gary and Josh talk about, to people to know how our legislature works when we come to them with issues that we'd like to get addressed. This bill, I believe, you can correct me, was first worked on in 2015. And then it was worked on again in every year. And that's one thing that I have a big problem with. All due respect to Senator Looney, who just gave up a very powerful seat. One of the things that really disturbs me in how he described politics is that we have to do it incrementally, that we can't be revolutionary about change. That bothers me. Because I've seen when you value people in Connecticut, it doesn't be incremental change, it's immediate. When that family, unfortunately, was killed in Cheshire years ago, I seen how quickly policy changed. And it changed within that one session. In one session, burglary became a huge issue. It's home invasion. There were a lot of people that were out on the streets on parole doing well, reconnecting families, jobs, all of that. But they got pulled back into prison. They didn't wait incrementally to pull them in. They just pulled them back into prison. Now you got to stay in prison because of what happened to a family that Connecticut valued. So, unfortunately, I'm afraid that maybe that's the framework in Connecticut legislation, and maybe Josh and Gary could explain why we can't do revolutionary stuff here. Because it takes too long to get anything done, depending on who's the victim. And so I'd like to see both of them speak to that. And then in the end, we can ask Josh and Gary both questions about what's going on in Hartford, because I'm just telling you, I'm just very, very disappointed. Every year I get more disappointed and disillusioned, and I don't like being this way. I'm at the point that I don't even know who to trust anymore. And that's not a way to do business with someone. I want to know when they come to me and they say who they are, that's who they are. And I can trust that. And I can sit back and relax because I know that person is taking care of the job that they say they were going to do. So that's why I'm saying, I'm not standing here saying, vote for Josh, because you need to make up that decision on your own. Because I've made that mistake, and it has cost me my own sense of judgment. And so I don't want to make that mistake again. So, Josh, hopefully you can convince us that you're the person to move this blockage of getting policy changes done in Connecticut. So I want to start with each speaker, starting with Gary, go down the line, and give your name and a little bit about who you are. And thank you all for showing up tonight.
Good evening. My name is Gary Winfield. I am a state senator in New Haven and West Haven. I represent the 10th District. It's the western half of New Haven going into West Haven. I'm also currently the Senate co-chair of the Judiciary Committee.
Josh Elliott, State Representative of the 88th District in Hampden. Serving my 5th term, I'm Deputy Speaker, Caucus Co-Chair, and Screening Chair for House Democrats, and I also happen to be challenging Ned Lamont for governor.
Hi, I'm Diane Lewis. Look, I don't have a title. I don't have like a bio or anything.
You don't need it.
Barbara just calls me and say, hey, it would be nice if you're on the panel, and then my face is on the flyer. So I was like, all right, here I am. And people ask me to sit on panels all the time. All I know is if you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the truth. That's what I'm here for today.
And that's all I ask. Alex, just remember you're not in court, so.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Alex Taubes. I'm an attorney here in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm a civil rights lawyer, and what I do is I try to help people get out of prison. Through my work, I've helped get over 1,100 years off of people's prison sentences, and I also help to bring about government accountability by bringing lawsuits against the police and the prison system. And I got my start going with Barbara to the women's prison in Niantic, where we taught a class together with the women there, a debate team class. We went there every week, and we spent time with the women there. And I want to give a shout out to the three people sitting to my right as well, because the work that I do would not be possible if it wasn't for these three people. I used to pay hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars a month to pay for phone calls of people calling from prisons. And it was because of the work of the three people to my right that we became the first state in the United States to have free prison phone calls, a model that other places around the country are adopting. And unfortunately that our governor, Ned Lamont, also known as Limont, proposed eliminating in his last budget last year. But thanks to, again, the three people on my right and as well, Barbara, that was not an option to get rid of the free prison phone calls, and we still have that here today. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I'm going to start with, because this is so fresh, I'm going to start with Gary and Josh to explain what happened with SB 503. Because I've seen a lot of work invested in that over the years. I've never seen so many people come to Hartford and testify publicly.
That was some amazing organizing.
It was
Oh my God,
amazing.
it was like,
And shout out to some of the people in the
I was-
audience who's a part of
girl,
that.
stand up.
Shout
'cause-
out to him. Yeah, stand up.
Stand up, girl.
Take
'cause
pride in what you did. What are you sitting down for?
Yes.
They did some mighty, mighty work
That was
this
some
year.
real
Because we've already been
organizing.
through this year after year after year. So I'm sure she's thinking, just like any organizer was, well, what can we do different? Because we still ain't got what we want. And she went to the limits.
That was.
I just
amazing.
knew that bill was going to pass, no
I
doubt.
did too, because when we went to bed, it was like we got the votes. When we woke
Right.
up, there were no votes.
Yeah. So
So something happened.
somebody,
So-
yeah, you guys tell us what happened.
So the story actually starts where you said back in 2015. But as we came into this year, I had a lot of conversation with Elizabeth and other folks about how we would do this. And we came to the conclusion that the best chance we had of making the bill actually happen would be for it to start in the Senate, right? Because I'm sitting in the Senate. And the House in the last few years has been a little bit problematic on almost anything, not just criminal justice related, almost anything that has any controversy, right? The House is kind of where you can't quite figure out what's really happening. And so we get the bill out of Judiciary, which we've done on various versions of this bill year after year. Judiciary Committee itself has not been an issue. We get to the Senate, and both chambers like to know on these bills that are going to eat up hours of time whether or not it's worth doing it, because if it goes to the other chamber and dies, then you just killed some other bills. And so it started coming back to us in the Senate that, as per usual, what was happening in the House was there were conversations about negotiations, the way that this bill could change. And I even had a conversation with some folks who wanted to tell me about that, and I said to them, don't tell me, because if I know, then that has to be part of the conversation, so keep that to yourself. And then I went upstairs and did the bill, and without regard to what the House was doing, because it felt to me, because what the conversation was becoming, so the bill is people up to the age of 25, right, could have this opportunity for having their sentence reviewed Makes a lot of sense. It doesn't just let anyone out of prison. It's exactly what we should be doing. And then the conversation started saying, well, what if we go to 23, maybe 22, 21, that kind of thing. And to my mind, like, we needed to drop that on the House. So that's exactly what I went up to the Senate. And I have a lot of trust in the Senate, given the work that I've done. So a lot of times they won't do that, but they trusted that we could kind of quarterback this thing through. So we went up, we had the overly long conversation about this, and we passed it. And what that did two things. One, it was passed through a chamber, but also it was earlier than it should have happened, right? That bill probably should have happened a week or a week and a half after I did it. So that changed the conversation in the building. And I think that's part of what got people so excited, because they had a real shot at this. But then the House did what the House does, right? They went back and forth. They have the votes. They don't have the votes. Some people counted this way. Some people counted that way. And the thing collapsed under its own weight. That's really what happened. And I think, people were focused. Some people were focused on what's the Senate going to do. I think we have to, amazing work that folks did, but I think we have to really understand how that building is currently working. And the conversation is really in that other chamber. And you really have to figure out who in that chamber is doing what work. And so I even asked some of the folks, and I give a shout out to Kadeem Roberts too, because he was really Representative Roberts from Norwalk. He was really one of the folks doing a lot of work on this. But I asked a lot of the folks, like, do you have your own numbers? Right? Not that I don't trust leadership. I never have, which is strange because I'll soon be in leadership. But I've always had my own numbers, because I need to know what the story actually is. And if leadership's telling you the numbers, a couple of things could happen. They could be correct, they could be wrong, or they could be manipulating the numbers. And so that's why I've always had my numbers. And there was a lot of, we shouldn't have to, I'm talking internally, we shouldn't have to do this thing or that thing or that thing. And as a person who's done a lot of controversial bills over the years, you absolutely have to. And so at this point, I'm going to give it to Josh, because he was in the House and he may have some more clarity about what was going on in the House, or not.
So I have a memory of the caucus when we were all together for about an hour to an hour and a half, and we were talking about SB 503. And there were people who shared past trauma of losing loved ones that we've known for years, and these stories never arose. And all of a sudden, there was this specter of, oh, we just sort of thought everybody would be on board. But there were quite a number of people that were starting to say that they actually didn't agree with this bill. That was the first time I was like, okay, maybe we have some bigger issues. Then the other thing is that when people get their votes counted, there's a group of people that will always play both sides of the coin. And what they will do is they will say, if it's up on the board, of course I'm a yes. And sometimes they'll tell advocates that, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll tell colleagues that, sometimes they won't. But then they'll go to leadership and they'll say, if this is up on the board, I'll be a yes, but I don't want you to put this up on the board. And they're not technically in their head lying to anybody. They're in their head, they're being totally honest. They don't want it up on the board, and they want leadership to count their vote as a no. And they also will vote yes if it gets up on the board, which means that leadership has an incredible amount of power there. And when leadership determines that a bill is important enough to go up on the board, then they will force the hand of the body. Where the governor is really important too, because leadership almost unilaterally wants to be where the governor is. And that's because of bonding. That's because of money. That's because of their own priorities, not the caucus priorities. So leadership is going to leadership has an incentive, and it depends on the person. It's not just the role, it depends on the person, but leadership has an incentive to maintain a very good working relationship with the governor because they're expected to bring resources back to their district.
There it go.
Whether that is money for schools, whether that is funding for capital projects, whatever the case may be. So there is an incentive for leadership to be with the governor. If the governor's quiet or hostile, and I don't think we really knew where the governor was on this, he was just quiet. And so when the governor is quiet on an issue, leadership will generally be a little bit more.
We know exactly where he was on this. He was completely against SB 503, is completely against anything like it, because we had something similar to SB 503 going through the parole board. They were giving commutations to people and giving people hearings and giving them an opportunity to prove their rehabilitation. And in 1 year, 750 of the years that were taken off of people came through the parole board. And what did Governor Lamont do? He forced out the chair of the parole board, replaced him with a person who now holds it against people if they claim their innocence, and doesn't allow people who are wrongly accused to even make their case, saying, I just assume they're guilty. I don't have any ability to look at that. Okay, so you keep people in prison who are innocent of the crime because you don't want to look at it. Because the governor put you there when someone actually was looking at it, when someone actually was doing something about it. And so the governor is responsible, and he was absolutely against this because that's what he stands for.
There you go.
There's nothing I disagree with there.
I'm just going to say I definitely agree with him. I always felt like I'm just cynical because I've been up there too many years. I've seen the politics,
But we know what
but I said the same thing. We know what happened.
What happened when the ombudsman?
Right. When
The ombudsman. We knew.
when the people wanted me to be the ombudsman,
Said no. They
And
said
first
no way
they
could
voted-
Barbara Fair
That's
oversee us or have any influence or power. And they said it to my face. I saw the governor's old assistant, Johnny Dash, the one who was using the company car and the state money to go on
All that
vacation
corrupt
and all
stuff.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I walked up to him. I said, so are you guys going to make Barbara Fair the ombudsman? She was number one on the state list that you guys created and through the interview process. And he said, absolutely not. Absolutely
the
and
not.
so what
person.
happened? Yes, he did pick the last person. But what happened before that is we went to the confirmation hearing because he's so used to what he gets, what he wants, he gets. So he didn't know the power that we know we have. So I said, a few of us need to go to that confirmation hearing and let our voices be heard. And so when she was sitting there just so excited that she was going to get the job just because the governor wanted her, we stepped up and said, hold up a minute. We have something to say. And we said it, and they voted her down. The next morning, all of a sudden, we got to have another vote. And just about everybody changed their vote to vote her in. So we know what happens behind the scene. I know you don't want to say it, Josh. I'm sorry. But that's one thing I have to have with a candidate also. You have to have courage to do the right thing. And if you don't have the courage to do the right thing, I'm not getting behind it. I just can't. I know what happened many, many times under this governor. I know. And I know you're not blind. But if you are, then you know I'm gone.
Well, he's our best chance to get rid of this lying governor right now. So let's go. Let's get him in there. Vote for Josh.
Vote for Josh.
So I do want to give him the opportunity to speak to that. He doesn't think the governor does this slimy stuff.
We should stay to the topic, though. We should stick to the topic.
What I have seen is that a lot of the legislative process happens up until the last minute, and then it's up to three people. And it's up to the Senate President, Speaker of the House, and the governor. Now, I can't really speak for the Senate, so I really leave that mostly to Senator Winfield. But what I can tell you at the very least in the House is that if you have 76 to 80 people that want to see a bill go, a bill like this, we're probably around, let's say 80. I don't know what the exact number is, but that's probably my guess. Then what ends up happening is you have those 20 people that shouldn't have as much power as they do, but all of a sudden they get tons and tons of leverage. And the speaker, and it doesn't have to be this speaker, it could be a speaker, but what I've seen is that they make their decision based on what the president of the Senate is thinking and what the governor is thinking, and they go back to the caucus and they sell. And I've seen it over and over now where I no longer think about the process as being a pushing up. I think about the process as a pushing down. And I'm not saying that's right. What I'm saying is that's how I see it now. I don't want it to be that way. But when you have a governor that doesn't set an agenda, and this governor does not set agenda, then you are really leaving it, for the most part, to the two in charge of each caucus, both in the upper chamber and lower chamber. And I've always seen the president of the Senate as being a champion. Again, I really leave that more to Senator Winfield to speak on whether that is or is not true. But I don't see our speaker as being a champion on these issues. So if there is a question about where the governor is going to be, he will generally lean on the side of not having that bill move forward. And that's where it happened, where it's easy to blame the speaker. I think for myself, I would blame the lack of vision from the governor's office about what we want to do and where we want to be. And I think that silence was probably the most important factor in this whole conversation. And so I agree with what Alex
You're
says.
being a little nicer than me and Barbara, though. Still, you're still a little nicer than us. I guess we'll have to accept that.
Well, could we
That
talk?
he's a little nicer because being silent is an agenda.
That's an acceptance.
And to stop everything from happening is an agenda. And to get rid of the parole board chair is an agenda. Then to send the new parole board chair to the legislature to lie and deny people justice is an agenda. And that is Lamont's agenda. When the state police were caught making fake, fabricated, fraudulent tickets, not one, not two, just like, 100,000, which completely corrupted our state's racial profiling database and statistics. How many people did Governor Lamont hold accountable? Zero. No one. No one was held accountable. And who does he hold accountable? The parole board chair, who's doing his job, who himself was a retired police officer who served for decades and who didn't let everybody out. Didn't let everybody I wanted to let out. A lot of decisions he made I strongly disagreed with. He was at least trying to be fair, and they couldn't have that. So, I respect that you're running and you made the ballot, and people don't understand what Josh did by getting onto the ballot to challenge an incumbent governor in the state of Connecticut. It's only happened one other time in Connecticut history, and the person who did it in 1978 was the lieutenant governor at the time. So what Josh has done is historic for the state of Connecticut. And, what Lamont wants is to be a third-term governor. And if we allow that to happen, we validate all of this BS that he's shoveled on us all of these 8 years, all of the lies, all the deceit, no accountability. J. Allen Jones died in the first year that he was the governor. And he spent his entire governorship of 8 years keeping the video secret from the public. And it's still not released. And then you look at these in-custody deaths, and Barbara Fair had to fight just so we can know these few details about who's dying in there, okay? And you look at it, and they say the majority is natural causes,
Right.
okay? But you have two young black men in their 40s, a 32-year-old white male who died of, quote, sudden death with schizoaffective disorder, sounds like J. Allen Jones refusing a strip search and being murdered by correctional officers, and a 68-year-old male who died from hepatitis C, which our current ombudsman had to sue when he was an attorney because they refused to treat hepatitis C and had to be sued and pay millions of dollars for failing to treat hepatitis C. Those are the natural causes. Those are the natural causes. We need to get rid of this governor.
All right, Alex. Miss Lady Diane.
Can we talk about the division in the Black and Puerto Rican caucus?
Yes.
The division in the Black and Puerto, because we're pointing fingers all over the place, right? But we're not pointing the fingers at our own. The Black and Puerto Rican caucus were divided. They did not support the bill, and that was the beginning of the decline. So we need to do more work with the Black and Puerto Rican caucus. If they got to get changed out, we need to change who needs to go. And I believe that's where it started with Senate Bill 503, with our own people. Because
Right.
if we don't support it, then the white racists in the building gonna say, "Oh, guess what? They get a free pass. They don't gotta support it," and then they'll blame it on the Black and Puerto Rican caucus. And that's what happened with Senate Bill 503.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what I'm concerned even with this election is that, when you hear Lamont say, we need to all come together and be united as a party so the state doesn't turn red. The state ain't going to turn red, period, anyway. The only fear is if that somebody actually had the courage to challenge.
That's right.
Actually
Just ask Governor
got more
Lamont's
than they
friends on
ever
it.
thought he would get, thought he would never even get on the ballot. But that shows the power of the people. So for me, when I read, he said we all need to come together and not be divided. What I seen is good. Sit down and come together with Josh and let's do this. That's what I read. That's what I heard. So now it's up to the people to decide who are we going to get behind to make sure that we're a united party when it's time to vote.
I can tell you that I am here to ask you to get behind Josh.
Put it to your mouth. Yeah, louder. Yeah, I think you need to
again.
get closer.
I am here to ask you to get behind Josh. Woo! I will say this. I've worked with Josh for a couple of very much so, very much. I've worked with Josh for a couple of years on the free phone call bill, and he was the same every single time. And I tell everybody, and I told he had some young campaign workers, and one of them called me and we talked, and I tell them, and I tell everybody who I meet, get on YouTube, Google his name, and the speech he made on the floor on the night the phone call bill passed. If you have any doubt if he is genuine and where his heart and soul is at, watch that video. That's the video that I think that would change your mind if you're on the fence or if you have any doubts, because you could see it. You got to see that speech, how passionate it was, and it will really show you, because like Barbara, if you're not talking about criminal justice, there's really no reason for us to be talking at all. So when Josh gave that speech, my daughter was in labor, and I was watching the speech, waiting for this bill to pass. When you watch it, you could just feel that this is the man that we need to be in charge of this state. We won't be sitting here saying, what if, what if, what if. We will be, any criminal justice issue that comes up, I could almost guarantee you that he's going to be on the right side. He's going to be on our side. And that's why I'm behind him. He knows why I'm behind him. And I'm asking you, I am humbly asking everybody in this room today to get behind Josh. What do we have to lose?
Like look at the current governor who he had a $40 billion budget he proposed in February of 2025. Okay. He proposed getting rid of the free phone calls, bringing back charges for emails. So you got to pay for a stamp for your email if you're in prison now. So some private company can profit off of the poorest people in the state. Do you know how much this cruel regressive, horrible thing would have saved the state? Less than 0.1% of the budget. So less than what he's paying out in lawsuits because he fails to bring his officers accountable and they have to go to juries where the juries award millions of dollars. It would have saved almost nothing. And in fact, given that many of these phone calls home are alerting people about serious medical issues or other important crises or are keeping people connected, it would have actually cost tons of money. But the money's not the point. The cruelty is the point. We have a cruel governor. We have someone who does not care about you or your family or anyone who's not like him, a Greenwich millionaire or billionaire who can somehow get themselves even richer off of the power that they have. So even if you don't like Josh Elliott, in fact, even if you strongly dislike him, I'm asking you to support him in this election because it's that important.
Honestly. But
So-
can I ask him a question, Barbara? Wouldn't that whole bill, because email, it was all prison communication. Wouldn't he have had
He
to-
can sneak it into the budget. He was going to sneak it in. He thought he was pulling a fast one. We weren't going to catch it.
Right.
And it was immediately called out, and we immediately had pushback from Josh Elliott, and we knew it wasn't going to get past Gary. But the fact he had the audacity, to try.
If that's not enough, y'all, to get
Of
behind
all things
Josh.
to cut from your budget, take away the free messages that families can have with their loved ones.
The one good thing that happened under him, and now you see, just because something happened under him doesn't mean that he was part of the reason why. Like, for example, Robin Porter is sitting here with us.
I
Let's
was
give us
thinking
a
the
round of
same thing.
applause
Hey, Robin!
for State Representative Robin Porter. Sorry to call you out, but you got the camera on me so I can. So I could do that.
Right.
Listen, we've got Governor Lamont out here acting like he raised the minimum wage and
right.
he got paid family leave.
Right.
And that was not what happened, okay?
That was hilarious.
He
reading
was
that.
trying to kill it, water it down, keep it from being what it ended up being, and it was these three people here who forced him, and say people like Representative Hughes, who forced him, kicking and screaming to do something for anyone other than millionaires and billionaires.
Tax
Kicking and screaming. And I'm seeing some because it's the truth. It's 100% the truth.
Tax
Okay, can I
rich.
get a word in? I just want to recognize, while I have the opportunity, to recognize Representative Ann Hughes. This lady has been so passionate about criminal justice stuff, and I'm so proud of her. She is always there. She knows what we're going through
Fearless.
with our families. She's there. She stands with me when a lot of those other legislators won't. So I need to give her credit. And it's people like that who are the most humble.
Yep.
She'll sit over there like she ain't doing nothing. But she has spoken up so many times and stood with me when I was expecting other legislators to do it, and they didn't show up. But Ann Hughes showed up.
Fearless.
So I want to make sure that you get recognized while you're here. Because that shows a commitment to the people, not to what position I can get if I stick with the governor, but my commitment is to the people, because they're the ones who need it. And so I just wanted to recognize you for that. And again, Miss Robin Porter, who, like, when I was reading the governor say he did this and that, I said, wait a minute. That's the stuff Robin and them was pushing. How does he take credit for that? But you know what? If you're not up there, you can only believe what he tells you. But when you're up there, you know when he says, oh, I did this. What? He's been running from me. I'm telling you, this is what a baby he is. No, I just want to show what a baby. 6 years ago, because that's another thing that had me laughing when I read that he did such a great job during COVID. What? I approached him on the green, and because he made a stand from day one. He ain't letting nobody out of prison. Around the different states, they was finding ways to let people out. He wasn't letting. That was his thing. I'm not letting nobody out early. So then I seen him on the green, so I approached him and I said, Governor Lamont, and I swear to God, I spoke just like this because I don't get nasty until you get nasty with me. So I said, Governor Lamont, I said, can you tell me what you're doing about the people that are dying every day behind bars with COVID? And he started running some little scam. I just let him know. I just want to let you know, Governor Lamont, I talk to people inside all the time. I'm very in touch with what's going on around all this. So I want to just ask you, what is your plan to save lives during COVID? And he looked at me and said, I don't have time for this. And this is the face I got. Like, who does he think he's talking to? Because he's governor? You think you could talk to me like that? I said, okay, I got you. Because you're getting ready to get in front of that mic and put on a show. And when you get on that mic, I'm going to put on a show. So when he got to the mic and started his talk, and I said, Governor, I just wanted to ask you a question. Can you tell me why you have allowing people to die in prison? Is it because the majority of the people in there are black and brown? And he's been running for me ever since. That's what a baby you are. I asked you a question, and you're like a little baby. And now every time you see me, you're trying to run in another direction. I almost wanted to put my foot out one time just to stop running from me.
That's on YouTube too, right?
It is. You can see
It's
it.
on
And
YouTube.
Barbara, just basically, you don't need to watch it because she just
So I don't expect
enacted
him
it
to do
perfectly.
anything
Exactly
that
how
I
it
want to
happened.
do. That's the kind of person he is. So,
That's all
like I said, do your work. Don't let nobody come into your churches and pimp your vote, act like they done did something they didn't do. Those of us who have been doing this work can tell you clearly what he has not done in 7 years. I'm sorry, I don't think that he's going to change in this
That's
year.
right.
So when people say, well, he's not electable, who said that? I heard people say Josh would never get on the ballot, but he did it. So that shows the power of what can do, and I love long shots.
Me too.
What happened in New York can happen right here. And I think he knows that now. He probably thought there was going to be free sailing. He's going to be governor. He ain't got to do no work. Go tell a few lies, and especially in the black community. I don't know about us. I don't know.
He was shocked.
But you come to a church and you say nice things, and oh yeah, with Sharpton, that was.
Yeah. We're gonna arrest one cop now.
So anyway, I got to get off this because he'll just have me going. But I want to hear from Josh. What are you going to do differently?
So,
You're not going to run from me if I ask you a question, right?
have I ever run from you?
Okay.
So the goal is the Nordic model, and it is undergirded by this idea that when you are incarcerated, that it is the loss of your physical autonomy that's the punishment. And that's it. Which means that everything that they do is not backwards looking, but it's forward looking.
Yeah, come on, guys, we need some support.
So the way that I view our justice system is not just about what happens in prison. It is what are the socioeconomic factors that brings people and puts them into the pipeline. What happens, yes, in prison, and what resources do we provide after? So Bianca Tylek, who many of us know and love, who was the lead advocate on the telecommunication bill, really changed my mind with this. And that is that we aren't simply seeking to reduce recidivism, we're looking to ensure that people are successful upon reentry. And it's important frame change. And so when I look at this work, I look at first, how are we making sure that people could survive? How are we making sure that people have access to an equitable education, good job opportunities, safe environments, clean, healthy environments? What are we doing culturally to make sure that that exists for people? And then if people end up in prison, what are we doing to provide resources so that when they are out, 95% of people will be out of prison if they go in. What are we doing to ensure that they're successful? What are we doing to ensure that they have habits, both physical and mental? What are we doing to ensure that they're eating well so that they're healthy? What are we doing to ensure that they have the medical care and attention that they need? Because now we're stewards of humans. So what are we doing to keep them okay and safe? And then when they're out, what are we doing to ensure that they don't reoffend? Not for the victim, yes, for them, but not just for that person who was incarcerated, yes, for them, but for all of us, because we need to be also data driven. And we need to be ensuring that we're putting laws into effect where if you've been out a couple of years and we know that you haven't reoffended, the chance of you reoffending is very, very low. So why are we holding you back from employment? Why are we holding you back from housing? Why are we holding you back from services? We need to be looking through the lens of care and the lens of humanity. And I think that there's this real sense of those people don't matter. And it's this like sort of undercurrent, the psychological thing that people maybe don't say, but it's written into budgets, it's written into laws, and so we do say it. And I think it's equally now important to be saying what these budgets say and what they do, how they treat people disproportionately, and what are we doing to be investing not in those people, but in ourselves. There is only us, and I just see it over and over and over. There is only us. There's this natural urge from the forces of bad out there, whoever they may be, wherever they may be, to separate us based on gender, to separate us based on creed, on religion, on any number of things. But that is all, that's not real. None of that is real. We're all just, we all have different flavors. So when I say we are one culture, I don't mean to say that we're all the same. We are not, but we are all human. And the laws that we put in place that affects those who are most disadvantaged, most marginalized, that is precisely how you judge a culture. And right now, based on how we judge those who need the most help, we certainly fail. We fail people over and over and over. And unless you have a governor who has a vision for what the carceral state should look like and the end goal, then you're never going to have somebody who takes those concrete steps to get there. Because whether or not you believe that it's incremental or it's home runs or it's somewhere in between, you have to know where you're getting to even be getting base hits. And you can't be getting base hits if there's no vision. And that to me is the biggest issue, is that there's no vision with this governor. And that is what I hope to be bringing to the office.
Let's go.
So tell me about your vision for this office, especially when it relates to criminal justice.
Sure. So much of what I talk about is economic, because I think people need economic opportunity. And I think that a lot of the drivers of what ends up getting people into trouble ends up being issues of opportunity. And we used to live in a culture where we had, and I'm sort of I joke when I say this, I'm sort of a one-trick pony, and I'm not going to talk about taxes the entire time, but we had a culture where we asked the wealthy to pay their fair share, and we had wages at the bottom that were way higher than they are proportionally today. If from the 70s to today, minimum wage had kept pace with productivity, not just inflation, our minimum wage would be closer to $28 an hour, which seems impossible. But that was the economy that we had built. Right now, the average first-time home buyer age is 40 years old. We don't have the economy that we had 80 years ago. Now, we also know at the time when we feel like we had built the biggest middle class that there were all swaths of people that were left out. These are the years of redlining. These are the years of Japanese internment. So that's not to say that every lesson of the middle of the 20th century is a lesson that we should be taking away. But we know how to build a middle class, and we need to do it again, and we need to do it inclusively. That's the first thing. When people have opportunity, they're so far less likely to offend. Now, when we're talking about the carceral system as it exists right now, you need to be funneling money into services and having more education for people that end up being COs. This is a big part of the model where you don't get to become a correctional officer until you had years and years of specific training that makes you more of a mentor and guide, as opposed to what we imagine a CO to be, is somebody with a nightstick that is seeking to enforce. And we need to be shifting what we want that relationship between the CO population and the incarcerated population to be. And that's going to take time. That is not an overnight thing. We need to know where that, but it has to come from resources. It has to come from money. And if we don't raise those resources to be investing in people, to be better stewards, it's not going to just happen. Because we need to make sure that people can afford to go to college and to get these degrees and can have this training. We need to be saying this is where we are going. If you don't want to be part of this, you don't have to be a part of this. Because the culture right now is that what we are saying is our vision is just simply not possible. And to a degree, they're right, because we have starved the system of the resources it needs to be successful. And so we need to be investing in our system. These jobs are also, people come out as COs and the average age is 58 years old. So we've put COs in stressful environments because we're telling them that their role is to be, I'm trying to think of the way to put this. How would you put this?
Police.
We're telling them to be cops. And that to me is not what their role ought to be.
So do you talk to the commissioner and the top administrators in DOC about how they need to change the culture?
Oh, they're not going to listen to me. They don't listen to rank and file.
They're going to listen to his budget when it drops.
Maybe
make me DOC commissioner. I'll talk to him.
Who the governor appoints with what vision the governor wants is ultimately what you end up with. And you have to have somebody who's willing to be invested. Malloy wasn't perfect, but he had a vision for what a second chance society could be. And he moved us in a direction. And as soon as Ned gets into office, because that vision was no longer coming from that office, we immediately start moving backwards. Homelessness starts increasing. A whole host of metrics that aren't even about the criminal justice system that start moving backward because that wasn't what the governor wanted to do. Focused on one thing only. That's protecting his friends' pocketbooks and making sure we pay down the pension. Everything else doesn't matter. But it's a tool. Yeah.
I just want to point out.
I just want you to know I was actually going to go to you because I want to hear from you about this whole vision thing.
No, I just want to point out something about whether it's the governor or all of us. It is really important who sits in each of these positions. And I don't agree with everything that even the interim commissioner is doing, but her coming in has changed a lot of conversations immediately. And that's because she comes from the other side of the house, if you will, right? They're the folks who grow up through just being the people who are paying attention to the carceral part of this. But there are people in corrections who come through the social side of this. And so she's immediately come in and begun having a conversation. Now, that's not because the governor intended to pick her, right? Like, that's not, we were going to have steady state. We happen to have fallen into this. And I think a lot of us should be paying attention to whether or not, so initially she's doing okay, right? But we should be paying attention to how this develops. She's interested in having conversations that I have not been able to have. You talked about COVID, and during COVID, I was directly in these conversations and came up with a way to get people out of the prisons. It went nowhere, as you know, but having conversations with her is completely different. So I just want to point out that when Josh is talking about the people in those positions, it is, I'm cynical too, right? But it is important to think about the possibility of someone being in these positions who is willing to have different conversations, willing to say different, willing to even put it out publicly. And that doesn't mean all that much, but the fact that she stepped out and said, we are a social services organization as opposed to what we have been, has some impact. And I can tell you, there's some folks on the inside who do not like that she said that, right? So she's willing to take a step, and we have to help her be able to take more steps.
Well, I have to say I've had a long relationship with her. Started when she was a warden, and so I have a lot of faith in her. But I also know she can't do it by herself. She's up against a mountain of people who want to keep everything the way they are.
And that's why I'm saying I want folks to know I don't know what she's ultimately gonna do, but I like you have a relationship with her, and I try not to do this too often because you get burned, but I believe she's trying to make the right kind of changes, and she's not going to get support from inside. So her support has to come from folks here who are concerned about what's happening, and that's why I want to put it out there. Look, I don't often speak positively about the people who are in her position, because I don't want people to come back to me and say, "You told me," right?
Amen.
But seeing what I'm seeing now, I'm willing to step out and say, I hope we all try to help her to help us to do better.
Well, one of the things I'm hoping that, she has already promised me that she will consider coming to these meetings. So that's a step right there, because the last commissioner we had definitely was not willing to do it. So I'm just trying to give her time to get herself settled in her job, because I know it's not easy. And you're talking about people on the inside who don't want to see her successful. There's people right on her staff. And so I recognize she's going to have a big job, and that's why she needs all of our support to help her to do. If we want her to do a good job, we have to be there to support her. Then just right, everything's gonna fall on her. It's all gonna be her fault, So let's support her, give her the opportunity. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, for one of the things, hopefully in a couple of months she'll come down here and she'll talk to you. So come out, talk to her. Matter of fact, you don't even have to wait for that. You can actually, that's how I got to meet her, is just call the commissioner's office and say, can we have some meetings? Because I meet with her all the time. But so you don't have to be special. Just if you're really serious about building a relationship with her, call her and say, can we, I'm so-and-so, can we have some meetings? I'd like to support you, but I want to know what you're thinking about doing.
But we'll get her here. I've been working with her to help knock down some barriers for her. We'll get her here. I'll talk to offline. We'll talk and we'll arrange it. We'll get her. She's willing to do that.
Yeah.
She's willing to sit in front of people. We haven't always had that, so we'll make that happen.
Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that's going to happen in maybe August, because I might as well put that out here now for the next 2 months. I've never done this in all these years of doing this work, but the next 2 months I won't be doing community meetings. I'm going to be taking care of me. And so our next meeting will be August 7th. So just kind of, my children, it's always got to be your own. I'm going to do this. They don't believe I can put this aside. I'm not saying I'm going to stop.
I don't believe it either.
No, I'm going to say I'm not going to stop, because I'm already planning on a protest on June 10th to make sure that video goes out. But I won't be doing a lot of stuff. So let me put that out there. June 10th, we're going to, I'm planning on organizing to have a rally outside Superior Court in Hartford.
That's the day of the video.
No more demand, no more excuses, no more delays, no more BS. We want to see that video. And that video is Justice for Jay Allen. Do you have something to put on the tables? Okay. And I want to make sure you show up. I'm going to, what time is it? I want to talk about him so you'll understand why it's so important. 7:50? Okay, I got a few minutes. Okay. So while I'm at it then, so we're going to talk about Justice for Jay Allen. On that table, I have a couple of little pieces that I took out of his investigation. They're photos, and I just want to let you know they may be disturbing. Josh got to go. So we got to get Josh back here. But while we're talking about Josh. Okay, give me a couple of words. I got to give you something. So before Josh goes, I want my daughter to do some presentations from that table. I'm glad you came, Josh, but I really, there's a whole lot more we got to talk about. So because he has to go, I wanted to make some presentations to our speakers, because I'm so grateful. That's right. Gary has his kids too. Oh, his daughter's giving him the eye. I think he's gonna have to go too. Okay, baby girl, I know you in charge. So I'm the type of person I like to give people their flowers while they're around. I don't want to wait until they go on and everybody say, oh, they did so much, they're so great, and they're so wonderful, but you ain't hearing none of that. So I'm going to give you a presentation, your flowers now. Let you know how I feel about each one of you.
Josh Elliott. Thank you very much, Gary. And honoring you for your relentless pursuit of justice for others. Stop Solitary CT, May 2026.
And only you can prove to me whether you're the person to fit this. See, I already know who I don't want. So you better be the one I want.
Picture really quick, Mom. Picture really quick.
Oh. Oops, sorry. Where's our photographer? Oh, right here. Woo, woo. We're gonna do this.
Come on, don't sit down.
Oh yeah.
And this one is for Senator Gary Winfield.
Let's give it up for Senator Winfield!
Josh, do you have your information I left on your seat? Yeah, take that. I'll give you a call.
All that info. And we all, I think everybody in this room that knows Gary, we all are here in honoring you for your relentless pursuit for justice for others. Stop Solitary CT 2026.
And everybody knows I'm going to be right there making sure Gary continue to take care of us. Bye-bye.
I just want to apologize. I do have to get the kids out of here, but you know I'll be back. I've been with Barbara since well before I ever did this. We've been together. I'm not even gonna say how many years because that makes us both old. But okay, it makes me old. But this is the core of the work that I do. It is the reason that I went to the legislature, and we don't always get it the way that it should happen, but we keep going. And sometimes I have to remind Barbara that we've been going a long time, and we're going to keep going no matter how much we feel like we aren't. But we're going to keep going. That's right. Because we are working on getting these people free, getting them home healthy, and that is some of the most important work that gets done in this state. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Next.
I want to say, too, I know Josh left, but I also I feel that everyone should support him. I think he's very genuine. He's done things Ed would never do. You know what I'm saying? When I had issues with the police and I was out in Hartford, rallying and angry and fighting that no one was listening to me. I remember Ann was there. I'm sorry, I don't. What's your title? Sorry, yeah, Representative Ann. And Josh, he came down. My first time meeting him was 10 years ago. He came and he sat with me on the grass outside the LOB and listened to me. So he's someone that will listen, genuinely listen and care for us. Mm-hmm. Not saying he's going to be a perfect person because, I don't know. We can get that. But we got to hold him down for real. We need better. We want better. So the power of the people, we can do it.
That's
period.
Right. We can do it.
And hold them accountable. Absolutely. Yep. I forgot. He even called me. We had a drink in Hamden 10 years ago. I forgot. He was there for me.
Yeah,
so
that's what we do.
And
we
like my mom said, it's not always about us. Mm-hmm. Not me or her. It's about all of us.
All of us. Yeah, that's right.
For sure. Okay. Next. You know it's you. Mr. Attorney Alex Tabbis. The best. I love how he honors and respects my mother. You won't never hear him talking bad about her. You know what I'm saying?
What's their
They-
bad? Who
they're-
said something bad?
Somebody, but I'm you know, we not. Alex, don't get me started.
Just kidding.
So, in honoring you for your relentless pursuit of justice for others, Stop Solitary CT, May 2026.
Thank you.
Woo! And finally, the lady of the house.
Last but not least, the beautiful, always looking so fine, Miss Lady Diane Lewis, and we're honoring you for your relentless pursuit of justice for others, always at the Capitol. I'll be seeing you looking so beautiful. So from Stop Solitary CT, May 2026, we honor you. Nice job, Barbara Fair.
And so, since we have some time left, I wanted to, like I said, to talk about J. Allen Jones. That was another journey that I got on a few years ago when I read the story about what happened to him. And something in me just didn't feel right. I just felt there was something to that story. And so, to be honest, this is why I say my job is so difficult. I sat down with the Black and Hispanic Caucus, and I gave them all kinds of information about Jay Allen's death. I talked to a lot of legislators. I gave them packets talking about J. Allen Jones because I wanted to get support because I knew I couldn't do it myself. And to be honest, Black and Hispanic let me down, and so did a lot of legislators and other officials that I felt should have been in front of this. Black organizations that should have been in front of this, but they didn't stand with me. But you know what? That didn't stop me. So some of the information that you read about J. Allen Jones is so disturbing, especially when you see the medical report, and I gave all that information to the legislators, Black and Hispanic Caucus. I wanted them to know why I was so disturbed by this case. And in the report, I'll read you the letter that I actually put on the packet for all of these people that I thought should have been in front of this. Not me. I should have been supporting, not leading. I said, "Dear Sir, Madam, hope all is well. I'm providing you with information before you finalize legislative language relating to purchasing body scanners as an only resolution to the mental health crisis that is allowed to play out in Department of Corrections on a daily basis under the guise of safety and security. Body scanners are a great resolve at some point. I say at some point because we have been talking about them and making demands on DOC, and they've managed to skirt them year after year. At this point, I have no illusion that they will actually comply with anything. We have a governor who has not made them comply with anything. Although we are pushing for body scanners, the commissioner and his leadership team need to review their strip policies, where in 1 year they said they estimated over 350,000 strip searches that year alone.
350,000.
In 1 year. J. Allen Jones was killed in March 2018 inside a Garner CI. For those who don't know Garner, that's where the seriously mentally ill people are sent. Due to his refusal to strip naked and get on his knees and submit to what all of us would think would be degrading, dehumanizing, and unjustified search. I want to make note that in the report it says the only people who have to go through a strip search in this manner, they call it not supervised, but anyways, a strip search. Those people are only in Garner. That's the first question I would have. Well, why only in Garner? Why in Garner do you have to get shackled up and chained up and told to get on your knees and they strip your clothes off you for what? A policy that needs to change. But anyway, that's why I can understand why J. Allen Jones would have said no. And he said no. He said, I can't do it. But they forced it on him anyway. To me, that's sexual abuse, sexual assault. But when DOC does it, it's okay. Think about the damage that does to anyone, but especially a man. What are you looking for up his rectum? He's having a mental health crisis. What are you going to find in his rectum? And like I said, I put some of the pictures over there, but they're very disturbing for me, because one of the last ones that I seen is when he was laying on the bed, naked, on his stomach, and these COs, and he, of course, he chained up, and all these COs are around him. Doing what? So that's very disturbing to me. So just seeing that image, it took me a while just to get that image out of my head. And that's why, even though I am really fighting hard for this video to be released, I really don't want to see it. It was very painful, the few slides that I seen. And for all the people that I went to help support pushing this for me, and for somehow they didn't think it was a big enough cause. Maybe they didn't think there'd be cameras out there taking, I don't know what it is, but my humanity was really, could not allow this thing to happen. Because I think about how many men have been through this, and women. How many have been through this kind of treatment? Every day. And the state sanctions it. What does that do to their mindset? Yeah. And for us to be able to hear stuff like that and see video like that and stand on the sidelines and wait for somebody to fight for justice is just disturbing to me. And that's why my kids are so upset, because they say, Ma, you fight harder than their own families are fighting. Because I don't understand their families. I don't. DOC harmed my son the day he turned 17, put him in Northern. He's never recovered. And so DOC, the state of Connecticut, will never forget my name. That's the kind of mother I am. I don't understand why others are not, but that's the kind of mother I am. And I vowed that for what they did to my son, I was not going to rest until Northern was shut down. And I remember so many people telling me, they did all kind of opinion pieces and everything. No, Northern, we need that. And I said, I don't care what anybody says. That place will not stay open harming people like this. Not if I have anything to do with it. Because I couldn't save my son, but at least I can save other people's sons, that nobody else have to go through that. Even though I'm not fooled to think that they're not still doing the same things, some of the same things in other facilities. But they don't have Northern, at least. And that's the fight we all have to have in us. We don't have to wait till it's our child. I mean, I started this journey before any of my family ever went to prison. That's how I learned a lot about prison. And what happened to my son, I can never undo. But that doesn't stop this journey for those other people that somehow we have to save them, because they're all coming back to our communities. And how do we want them to come back after they've been traumatized so deeply and harmed and tortured? How do we expect them to come back to our community? And so that's what I think about. So anyway, I did send this to them, and then I read some of the report, like I said, that I sent them, so I wanted them to read it. They talked about, the medical examiner talked about all the bruises and contusions he had on his body when they brought him to the hospital, still chained up. They didn't even have the decency to take the shackles off him. Put the bag over his head, sprayed him. It's just, the things that they did to him. I'm gonna leave it there because I can't. This is just too hard for me. But one thing I wanted to note also is that there was this probably might have been another one of those natural deaths, except there was a person who witnessed it, and that person talked about what he seen. They seen him beating on him, and he was crying out, "Dear God, please let me go." And because they noted, someone looked up and noted that this person was watching. I think that's the only reason it didn't come out being a natural death, because somebody seen it. And they made that person go and clean up all the blood. And that person's in Cheshire right now, where one of the CEOs who was involved works. So I would like to know, how is that person doing? But like I said, I can't do everything. Other people got to step up. They have to care as much as I care about what happens to somebody else. And you don't have to get paid for it. That's another thing. People can't seem to do anything unless they're getting paid. Well, I volunteer my services. And that's the greatest reward that I get, is knowing that I was able to help somebody. That's the reward that I get out of it. And that's the kind of rewards we have to look at sometimes. Stop looking for material wealth to be able to care about somebody else. But we have too much of that now.
I need the plaque though too.
I
I need the plaque though too.
So anyway, I just want to kind of leave it there. But I hope people will get involved and stand with us on June 10th outside Harford Superior Court. It's another deadline that we have for this Jay Allen video to be released. Before we stepped in, they were ready to seal it. And we showed up in the courtroom several times. And then finally the judge said, the interest of the people that's showing up outweighs DOC interest to seal it. Now, we didn't care. That video had been sealed. We would never seen what they did to Jay Allen. And what really gets me, too, is the fact other people have seen the video and his own mother hasn't had that opportunity. It's like, that's crazy to me. But she wants the world to see what they did to her son.
That's right.
And why should we allow DOC to cover it up? And our Attorney General, who's fighting like hell to make sure that it doesn't get out. He said, because he made a statement recently that they shouldn't release it just because of public interest. Well, whose interest should be taken into consideration? You done beat somebody to death. That's just one that we know about. Keep that in mind. That's one that we know about. So I hope you'll join us on June 10th. Write my email down to check out our Instagram page, that I usually keep all the updates on what we're going to do. But I want to be out there at 9:30 on that morning, when once again the judge will give an order, and hopefully that order will be the final order, so that the people who do want to see the video can actually see it. They won't have the original. They are already figuring out how they can cover up some stuff. But from the report that was given, there was a lot of punching and kicking going on, a lot of bruises all over his body. So they're not going to be able to cover it all up. But please stand with us on June 10th at 9:30 outside Harford Superior Court and make a demand that justice has been delayed way too long. 8 years. She's going on her 9th year of waiting for justice. And why should she? They can never bring her son back, but at least acknowledge that you robbed her son of his life. And we want to make sure it never happens again. So follow our Instagram page and join us on that day. Did anyone else want to say anything before we...
I do. I want to say something.
Okay, Diane.
I want to say, we're going to keep having problems.
Up to your mouth. You got to put up to your mouth.
Not, nothing is going to change. You know why? Because we keep saying the criminal justice system is broken. Criminal justice system ain't broken. It's working exactly the way they designed it to. It needs to be dismantled and burnt to the ground. Then we'll see changes. Keep changing the seats with different people. That's not going to work. It has to be dismantled, burnt down, and then we rebuild. It was designed to kill us before we was even born.
And that's what it's doing. I want to read one thing, though, before we end. It's from, just to give an example of what prison is like. This comes from someone who's been to prison, and I just really love this poem because I think it gives a picture for people who have no idea. They tell you prison is punishment. They tell you prison is accountability. They tell you prison is where you pay your debt. What they don't tell you is that prison rewires your nervous system. Incarceration doesn't take years from your life. It teaches your body that danger is constant. You learn to sleep with one ear open. You learn to scan rooms without thinking. You learn that silence can mean violence and noise can mean chaos. You learn that weakness is an invitation. That isn't discipline, that's hypervigilance. And it doesn't turn off at the gate. And I'll say that again. And it doesn't turn off at the gate. People leave prison and can't sit with their back to a door. They flinch at raised voices. They react before they reason. They can't relax, even in safe rooms, even with people they love. That's PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. But the system doesn't call it trauma. It calls it adjustment issues. Inside, trauma is punished. Anxiety is written up as disobedience. Depression is labeled laziness. Emotional shutdown is praised as compliance. Emotional shutdown is praised as compliance. If only Jay Allen would have just got on his knees and let them do what they wanted to do to him, he would have been in compliance. Mental health care is reactive, not preventative. You don't get help until you break, and sometimes not even then. Solitary confinement, that's not discipline, that's psychological damage. Constant counts, random shakedowns, lights that never really go off, and that never fully stops. That's not rehabilitation, that's stress conditioning. Then people are released and expected to just be normal. Get a job, be patient, communicate calmly, trust authority, handle conflict appropriately. After years of surviving environments where trust gets you hurt and hesitation gets you tested, and when former incarcerated people struggle, the public calls them unstable. The courts call them non-compliance. Employers call them risky. No one calls it what it is: trauma response. Families feel it too. This is very important. Partners learn to walk on eggshells. Children notice sudden anger, silence, distance. Homes become battlegrounds for wounds no one taught anyone how to treat. This is the quiet cycle nobody wants to fund, name, or fix. We don't just release people from prison, we release them carrying invisible injuries, and then we punish them again for bleeding. If rehabilitation was the goal, trauma wouldn't be built into the architecture. If public safety was the goal, mental health wouldn't be treated like an afterthought. But trauma doesn't show up on sentencing documents. It doesn't fit into profit models, and it doesn't make for comfortable conversations. So it's ignored until it explodes, and then everyone asks what went wrong. This did. So again, I want to thank everyone who showed up tonight. I want to quickly do our door prizes before I let you go. My daughter's sitting there with the door prize, the envelope.